Ce programme vous est proposé par Season Media.
La violence psychologique, c'est l'une des violences que les gens pensent pas que ça existe en fait. Give men some credit. They are big babies, like they say. They are just living through their own frustration, so they take it out on you. There's always a self-doubt that comes. That also now helps with, the fear of wanting to say anything because now you're thinking everybody will start judging you. Est-ce que les femmes ne sont pas parfois responsables de ce qui leur arrive? Of course not.
Bienvenue dans TRAQUE sur Season Media et Canal 2 International, l'émission qui éclaire les grands enjeux sociaux. Aujourd'hui, notre discussion porte sur un sujet préoccupant, violences faites aux femmes, mieux agir et comprendre. Selon l'ONU, en Afrique subsaharienne, 43% des femmes âgées de 15 à 49 ans ont subi des violences physiques ou sexuelles de la part d'un partenaire au cours de leur vie, un chiffre alarmant, bien supérieur à la moyenne mondiale. Plus globalement, 45 000 femmes et filles sont tuées chaque année par leurs proches partenaires ou membres de leur famille. Au Cameroun, l'enquête 2018 du DHS révèle que 37,3% des femmes en couple ont été victimes de violences physiques ou sexuelles au cours de leur vie et 21,5% au cours des 12 derniers mois. De plus, 43,2% de ces femmes ont subi des violences domestiques, 39,8% des violences psychologiques et 14,5% des violences sexuelles. Face à ces réalités, Madame Velveta, présidente de l'association Mieux, œuvre sans relâche pour briser le silence, soutenir les victimes et mener des actions concrètes pour prévenir et combattre ce fléau. Ensemble, nous allons explorer les causes profondes, les conséquences souvent invisibles et les leviers d'action pour combattre ce fléau dans notre société. TRAQUE, c'est dans un instant. À tout de suite. De retour sur le plateau de notre émission et comme annoncé, je suis avec Madame Velveta. Hello.
Hi, hi.
Juste pour vous prévenir, Velveta est plus à l'aise en anglais. Le Cameroun est bilingue, donc on va switcher un peu entre l'anglais et le français. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Of course, the initiative which you are the head of is so proud. It makes us proud, and really, by all the means, it's important to sustain your activity.
Thank you so much. I know generally when we hear organizations or initiatives, sometimes it doesn't look like the first thing that people want to talk about or discuss. But I just want to also applaud you for having me and welcoming me onto such a platform. It's really important to the voices of the women that depend on me.
My pleasure. So I'll start with a French question.
Sure.
Comment est-ce que tu te définis aujourd'hui, Vie? Est-ce que tu es une militante? Est-ce que tu es une leader? Est-ce que tu es une protectrice pour ces femmes?
D'abord, j'aime dire que je suis a serial volunteer.
Okay.
I'm a humanitarian at heart. Everybody knows that. Right from the age of 5, I used to already work with a placard that said children have rights. So this is not new to me, the space of human rights, the space of always advocating for people. So yeah, I wear the hat of militant when it's time to wear the militant hat. I wear the hat of a humanitarian when it's time to be human. And again, I have an organization called I'm Human because I really think that we all need to see ourselves as human beings. And when it's time to actually focus on advocacy and policy, then I'd wear that hat as well.
Okay, so V at 5 years old already was like children have rights.
Yes.
But what did you study? What is your professional, your CV? Mm-hmm. Just give us your CV, V.
My CV is very interesting. I started off with a bachelor's in law.
Okay.
I have always wanted to do law, but in a different facet, which I still think I'm doing today. I did study Contentieux International at RIPOSTE. And then I ended up doing, in my career, I ended up in communications and marketing. So I'm a bit of a nice, yes, a nice ball. That
very
has gone
polyvalent.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm a nice mix of what life has to offer and what you also have to dream about. Yes.
What represents for you this fight against violence on women? What does this represent for you?
First of all, it's a personal struggle. I do have quite a good number of experiences, as many women or girls that I know have gone through their own fair share.
Of course.
But I think that for me, I grew up in an all-girls home. I've seen, you know, women come to the front. I know what it means for women to take the baton to fight.
Yeah.
So I think it's only but natural and innate for me to really be inclined towards women's issues. It's not a hidden. My grandmom used to run a show calling the women on radio. So I really have been this person who knows what it means to be in a space that advocates for women. And having to have lost my father at a very young age and seeing my mother really come through the different battles as a woman, I don't see any other routes, if I always say. I feel like, so
that was your path.
It's my path either way. It's my path. And,
so, Vi, quelles sont les formes de violence les plus fréquentes chez les femmes que tu rencontres ou qui sont membres de ton association? Physique, psychologique
Je peux dire ce que j'ai vu pendant les 5 années que j'ai fait que je milite, en fait. Je pense que la violence psychologique, c'est l'une des violences que les gens ne pensent pas que ça existe, en fait. And the reason why is because a lot of, if you study violence and the trajectory of violence, people shoot from psychological. So it always starts with a nice base of grooming the victim, subtle insults here and there before it actually manifests into an action, a physical action. So from my experience, there's always an underlying psychological abuse that exists that we don't even know. Sometimes we don't. Most of
that
the women,
we normalize in
that
Africa.
We normalize, and people don't know that it's a psychological abuse because you think it's normal. If you see it happen every day, you think it's normal. I work with girls, especially from, like, you know, vulnerable communities, slum communities, and these are girls who are actually abused by their family, as in their uncles, their fathers, and it's such a hard time because you're looking at them and you're trying to change the mindset of this is not normal, but to them, they don't understand it as it's a violence. To them, it's happening every day.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how daddy takes care of me. That's how uncle shows his love. That's how my spouse shows how he loves me. So it's normalized, but people don't realize that it's really subtle grooming that before you actually see a physical act produce itself.
What are the signs that have to alert a woman on the partner, for example, with whom she is?
Usually withdrawal. The first things that we always see is withdrawal from their community. That's the first sign. You'd always notice the girl or a lady would withdraw herself. She's no longer that person that always comes to all the meetings. She's shy to show up in societal functions and parties. She's always checking, I need to, especially for partner violence, she's always checking, I need to run this idea by him. Is he going to be okay with me? At a particular time, she's telling you, I need to go, I need to leave, you know, or if she receives a message, her mood automatically changes. You can see all of those things, but they're not exactly what she's saying. It's what she's doing that you realize that, okay, there's really something going on here. So for the most part, for the women that I've seen, that I have worked with, withdrawal is the first thing that I always see. And then there's this loss of light, like, you know, this...
loss of spark.
Yeah, that spark doesn't exist anymore. There's no vibrancy. You're not interested in anything else. Things that used to really interest you, you're just, you know, you're just male.
For a fact, thank you for this information, but I was mostly talking about the signs on your partner. For you to know if your partner is abusing you psychologically or has his own problems and brings them on you, what are the first signs you see?
Violence itself manifests itself in multiple ways, like I said. Some people will get abusive, they start throwing slurs here and there, throwing slang, and then before it becomes this normal, they're insulting you, especially for women who, let me just use an example, women who have either gone through childbirth, you know, their body has changed, they're dealing with all of that postpartum stress, postpartum depression, then they have a partner that is just telling them, you know, and throwing a little words here and there. So usually, like I said, it always starts with a psychological base. There's a grooming that happens. But if you don't stop it, like at the point where they say something that hurts you, and you said, what you said hurt me, they wouldn't know. So they'll probably think it's normal, and sometimes they don't know. Like I always say, give men some credit. They are big babies, like they say. Sometimes the partners they're just living through their own frustration, so they take it out on you with words before it eventually becomes physical. For those that you can see the signs, especially for physical abuse, the signs usually exist, especially with how they grip you, how when you're in public function, if you're trying to do something, there's a stern hand that is pressing you behind, just behave yourself, you know, those little subtle things that are telling you, but it doesn't manifest itself until it gets to a point where they themselves blow out of proportion. Again, everybody would react differently. Some men would say words and would end there. Others would act it out, you know, with a physical action. So I can't say for certain how everybody chooses to react to their own frustrations. But yes, those are some of the signs that you can pick up on.
Quels sont les témoignages qui t'ont le plus marqué, ou alors quel est le témoignage qui t'a le plus marqué, sans dévoiler l'identité de la personne, bien sûr?
It's a hard question because I always say everybody's reality is different, and based on how they are telling you, you might think it's not that deep. And we're all human. We react to things like the way we react to grief. Some people just numb out. Some people would say it as a story that is just but for others, they'll cry it out. So I can't say for certain that there's one that has really touched me. I do have a couple. When I started in 2020, when we were doing a program that was helping internally displaced women from Manfe, there was this one lady actually who had, in the course of, you know, her trying to run for her life and all the gunshots and having her own child. She had a child at the time. She fell into the hands of, should we call them, a group of gunmen, yes. And yeah, they had their way with her, and she ended up, as a result of that, actually having triplets from that incident. So her life really changed. Like, her life became not what she ever thought it would be. She has a bunch of triplets. She doesn't even know, like, there's that
if it's
pain.
the same dad,
you don't even know who it was. You don't know where to start from. And here am I'm trying to only provide small support, but then I have 3 other children that depend on you. So for me, it was a hard one, because I was thinking about, you know, health support, mental health support, financial support. It was really hard for me. I was just looking at her like, I don't know what to tell you, my dear. I really don't know what to tell you.
Are your initiatives supported by the Ministry of Social Affairs?
For the trainings, for the most part, yes. And when we want to refer cases, we do refer cases to them.
And the follow-up,
yes.
is it good?
I wouldn't say it's the best, because again, some of these cases do require a structure, a budget actually set aside for taking care of these cases. But most of the time, we don't either have the right personnel. People are, I'm part of the GBV referral, gender-based violence referral pathway network for Littoral. And usually I'm like a first responder. So if somebody has a case, they'll call me. But by the time I eventually find who's where to send to, time has really gone by. We have lost evidence in the process. And as you might know, especially for cases of sexual or physical abuse, you need a lot of evidence. So most of these women don't have the financing to actually go to a hospital to actually to do a proper report that I can now take to give to a legal support to actually help you to follow up. So we lose evidence in the process, and then the case practically, you know, dies before we even start.
Alors, pourquoi tant de victimes hésitent à parler?
There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of blame in the community. Most victims always think that they could have done better. I always say it's almost like when you're going to go and write an exam. Sometimes you think that you're prepared, but if you did not study the last page and then the last page comes, then you feel now like, oh my God, I I should have read that page. So there's always that self-blame that comes. There's always a self-doubt that comes. That also now helps with, the fear of wanting to say anything, because now you're thinking everybody will start judging you. And unfortunately, people judge a lot. Actually, we did a survey in 2023, about 90% of the women who were afraid to report actually mentioned that the first time, or at least when they tried to give a signal, they were blamed. They were asked strange questions like, what were you doing there? Why didn't you just call me?
Yeah. So the policemen themselves are not even trained to talk to this kind of
exactly.
victims, no?
Unfortunately, yes. But there is a center that we have worked with, a gendarmerie. Actually, I will not disclose them because I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. But those are the real militants. Like,
no,
unfortunately,
I think you should disclose. Why shouldn't you? Because people should know where the right door to knock when they have that kind of problem. I think you should disclose.
Actually, the one in Bonamusadi Museum, they actually, once you have a case, they always try to do the first, especially for intimate partner violence or domestic abuse, they'll try to have the conversation, of course, with the both parties. Then they'll ask, obviously the victim in this case, do you want to, put a plainte or not? And then you now make the decision, but they are ready when you make the decision to actually file a case for you, send it to the parquet, and they follow up for, you.
That's perfect. Yeah. Velvita, tell me how does these abuses, these violences affect the lives of women daily, in their daily lives? How do you think it affects them? Even their relationship with the society, with people, their social lives.
Okay, I use a simple example. It's like eating a bad fruit, you start having tummy aches, and then you start grumpy, you start acting grumpy, So that's the same thing that violence does. From a mental health perspective, which is something that I just recently started, looking into, is that a lot of what we do as physical is our brain work that is actually working. So for me, especially as an advocate, is violence does so many things to your physical being that you don't even know. You start acting up, maybe you even start not eating right. Before you know it, other health challenges enter. But you think that that's the health challenge, but it's because of something else that was affecting your mental health. I always think that again, in this instance, I'm allowed to bring in economic abuse. Economic abuse, sometimes people don't think it's a thing, but just things like, not being able to have the right job, being paid right in your office space, it puts you off because
even
your performance, you're not treated right. So, your performance is going down. Then you start having performance issues with your boss. Then they're telling you they have to let you go. But all of those things are violences and abuse. So people they don't pay attention to those things. It's more psychological, exactly. So I feel like it really does affect even just the star that a woman is. I really, like I always say, I've lived in a home where I've seen women do it. I know our potential. I cannot deny that we are created for this. Like, we're created to be these amazing people. And so sometimes when our psyche is not in sync with our body, we let go of our dreams. I probably wanted to be this amazing journalist or maybe hosting a podcast, but then I'm telling myself, am I really the right person? Because I've heard it all over and all over.
And let me tell you, I was raised by a woman as well.
Wow.
Only a woman.
Nice.
And with a sister. It's true, I have a brother. But I was raised by a woman, and I love what you're saying, because it's actually wonderful to see how women who are alone can raise the kids, give them real values, give them strength, and help them in having real ambitions in life.
Right.
And I can see that in you. And it's on this note, dear Velvita et chers téléspectateurs, qu'on va prendre une courte pause à la régie. On vous retrouve juste derrière. À tout de suite.
Découvrez une toute nouvelle façon d'exister avec Season Media, votre appli préférée. Des programmes riches, variés et engagés au plus près du Cameroun et de l'Afrique d'aujourd'hui. Focus Sport, toute l'actualité sportive de la semaine en un seul rendez-vous. Résultats, analyse, coup de cœur et coup de gueule. Chaque vendredi à 15h. The Interview, un face-à-face sans filtre avec les acteurs majeurs de la scène politique et économique. Des questions franches, des réponses directes. À 19h, ne manquez pas votre bimensuel. True Talk, entre femmes, on se dit tout. Des échanges sincères, inspirants et sans tabou sur les sujets qui comptent. True Talk, la parole au féminin sans détour. Chaque samedi à 10h30. Reportages exclusifs, articles fouillés, analyses en direct. Partout où ça se passe, nos journalistes sont sur le terrain. Et si chacun de nous devenait un acteur du changement? Découvrez Citizen Time, l'émission qui vous apprend les réflexes citoyens et les gestes qui sauvent. Citizen Time, votre rendez-vous mensuel à 13h. Des infos, des débats, de la culture et de l'énergie. C'est tout ça, Season Media. Téléchargez dès maintenant l'application et restez connectés au Cameroun et à l'Afrique qui bouge.
De retour sur le plateau de votre podcast 100% féminin où on explore des sujets sans barrière et sans tabou. Je suis avec Velvita. Elle est présidente de l'ONG Human Or. Et justement, nous étions en train de parler de discuter, je veux dire autant pour moi, autour de la thématique violence faite aux femmes, mieux comprendre et agir. Velvita, ça va?
Ça va.
Alors, on va continuer notre bel entretien. Que fait ton association concrètement pour aider ces femmes victimes de violences?
We do two things. Number one is psychosocial response and psychosocial support for victims, which includes like trainings, mentorship programs, how to identify, spot the signs, and who to report to in your who to report to in your immediate network. That's for those groups of like vulnerable women. And then one of the initiatives that we do every year during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is called Do It For Her, Do It With Her. It's now taking action to help survivors. And our action is really leaning towards financial inclusion. So we provide support, startup capital for survivors, because we believe that if a woman is financially emancipated, there are a lot of decisions that she will take for herself.
Differently
exactly. That will protect her and the children. For those who have children who are always in abusive relationships and want to stay because they are afraid, we hope that with the businesses that they run, they can now make sane decisions that will protect themselves and their offspring.
What is the role of the media and the social network in all this fight?
I would like to say that I have a personal beef with media because I think that how we communicate sometimes has normalized violence. Sometimes we always tell the story from cette femme a été violée, cette femme a été... So we're making it look like it's normal. I think that the media has quite an enormous role to play, even in just how we portray and normalize and treat the information. Sometimes even just sharing the victim information, that to me is, it's a mistake. It's a mistake, but many people don't realize it. I also think that it's high time that media now stand on the side of the militants, as in we're reporting the perpetrator here. We're no longer reporting the victims.
Exactly, and think of texting Season Media to report the perpetrators.
I will.
For free, we're going to give the information out in order to stop other people from living the same situation.
All right, thanks.
Velvita, I didn't inform you about this, but we're going to get actually right now the quiz. It's time for the quiz.
Okay.
C'est le moment du quiz, chers téléspectateurs et téléspectatrices. So, Velvita, you have to carry this little basket. You have it on you. You have 1 minute to answer each question. There is a chrono. And if you don't answer, it means you're not sincere. It's true, you're not losing anything, but people will just know you're not sincere through this. So, top, let's go.
Pourquoi certaines victimes retournent-elles chez leur agresseur malgré le danger? Interesting question. I think it's also because people lack a lot of self-esteem and self-belief, and there's always the need of the want to be validated by other people. Exactly. And sometimes this is the person that has been validating you over and over. So sometimes you don't know any other choice than to think that that's the only person you can run to. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, they don't hear, they just go back.
They just go back. Second question?
Second question, we have, les associations culpabilisent-elles parfois les victimes plus qu'elles ne dénoncent les coupables? Unfortunately, not in my case. We are trained to actually not blame the victim. We are trained to listen without judging. And not everybody, by the way, in every organization is habilitated to actually treat a case of violence. So it's not all organizations that are supposed to respond to violence. So I wouldn't say, no, I don't think we actually, well, at least for me, I don't blame victims, not me. Est-ce que les femmes ne sont pas parfois responsables de ce qui leur arrive? Of course not. No. Of course not. Yes, we have to take responsibility where responsibility is due. But in this instance, I just want to speak to the ladies. It's not your fault. People decide what they want to do. They decide how they want to treat you. And the action is on them, not on you, the victim. So, no, you're not responsible for what happens to you.
Number 4.
Number 4. Est-ce que le discours sur l'autonomisation économique des femmes suffit pour réduire les violences ou est-ce un simple slogan? No, it apparently is one of the reasons why a lot of women are in vulnerable and precarious situations because they lack the financial ability to make the decision. If a woman has a good paying job,
you were saying it,
yes, and has the finances, she will make better decisions for her children. Sometimes because of the culture in which we are in, we depend solely on the breadwinner. We don't see ourselves as breadwinners. So I think that it's not just a slogan. When women actually start taking charge of their finances, a lot of decisions are made differently, even the choice of who they end up with. So I don't think it's just a slogan. Que répondez-vous à ceux qui accusent les associations d'exagérer les chiffres ou de diaboliser les hommes? Okay, no, I don't diabolize men. One of the things that we do at our initiative, Do It For Her, Do It With Her, is we have a panel called Women for Women. And these are men we the men for women. So we do have men who are actually amazing protectors. They sit in our communities. But the numbers don't lie. Unfortunately, in Cameroon, let me just be real down on this point. In Cameroon, only 10% of people who have actually experienced some form of abuse will report. So will report. So even when you say 70% des personnes, it's 70 de ces 10 personnes qui ont parlé. So actually what we're saying is that there are a lot of women who actually are not responding and not reporting. Those numbers could actually be worse. So we are not exaggerating the numbers because actually many victims don't still speak up and they go to their grave with the secret.
Thank you so much, Velvet.
Thank you for having me.
Velveta, les violences faites aux femmes, peut-on vraiment en finir un jour?
That's a very hard one. I don't think that it's an easy battle, but it can be treated differently if we start speaking up, if we start actually accusing the perpetrators, if we start taking right action and there are actual consequences for those actions, I think it will be significantly reduced. Unfortunately, our legal systems, our jurisprudence, everybody that is supposed to be supporting us, unfortunately don't have the means to. So sometimes it looks like a very hard battle, but I think it can significantly reduce if we take the right action.
En dernier, je vais te demander d'adresser un message aux victimes silencieuses, celles qui pour l'instant ne dénoncent pas, ne parlent pas, mais subissent.
Je suis là. Elle est là. True Talks est là. If for any reason you think that you don't have the capacity to talk, send us a message. You can send it anonymously. You can write a message. Feel free, by all means, to reach out to people. You're not alone. You're not the only one going through it. And there are tons of people around you who depend on you, who depend on your light. So keep going and never let that light stop shining.
Oh, Velveta, that was so deep. And vraiment, merci beaucoup, merci pour ce puissant témoignage, pour ce que tu nous as expliqué, comment tu nous as aidé à comprendre et les éclaircissements surtout et les défis majeurs que représentent les violences faites aux femmes, mais aussi les solutions qui commencent à émerger, parce que si tu es là, ça veut dire qu'il y a des solutions. Votre combat ainsi que les actions d'AMBAZONIENS sont essentielles. Accompagnement psychologique, campagne de sensibilisation, autant de leviers pour prévenir, protéger et guérir. À vous qui êtes encore silencieux, comme elle l'a si bien dit Velveta, informez-vous, intervenez, dénoncez et surtout soutenez les victimes. Ensemble, chaque action compte pour mettre fin à ce fléau. Rendez-vous dans le prochain épisode de True Talks pour continuer à élever la voix, briser les tabous et agir pour un changement durable. N'oubliez surtout pas de vous abonner à toutes nos plateformes, de télécharger notre application sur Play Store et Apple Store et continuer de suivre nos programmes sur Canal 2 International et sur Season Media. Excellente suite des programmes et bonne journée.
Ce programme vous a été proposé par Season Media.